The test of patience. As Daniel continued his journey towards mastering his anger, he encountered a series of tests that would push his newfound resolve to its limits. Among these challenges was the test of patience, a trial that would force him to confront his impulsive nature and learn the value of restraint. It began one rainy afternoon as Daniel made his way home from work, the city streets slick with water and teeming with frustrated commuters. Caught in the midst of rush-hour traffic, Daniel felt his temper begin to fray as the minutes stretched into hours, and the honking of horns filled the air like a symphony of discord. With each passing moment, Daniel's frustration grew, until it reached a boiling point and threatened to spill over into a torrent of anger. But then, as if by some divine intervention, he remembered the lessons he had learned in his journey towards self-improvement. Taking a deep breath, Daniel closed his eyes and counted to 10, willing himself to remain calm in the face of adversity. And as he did, he felt a sense of peace wash over him, a clarity of mind that allowed him to see the situation for what it truly was, a temporary inconvenience, nothing more. And so, instead of succumbing to rage, Daniel chose to embrace patience, to surrender to the ebb and flow of life's unpredictable currents. He turned on the radio and hummed along to the melody, finding solace in the music as the world outside raged on. And then, as if by magic, the traffic began to ease, the cars parting like the Red Sea before him. With a grateful smile, Daniel navigated his way home, his heart light and his spirit buoyed by the knowledge that he had passed the test of patience with flying colors. But little did Daniel know, this was just the beginning of a series of trials that would test his newfound resolve to its limits. For in the journey towards self-mastery, there are no shortcuts or easy answers, only the unwavering determination to persevere in the face of adversity. And as Daniel stood on the threshold of a new day, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and grace, secure in the knowledge that he had the power to overcome anything that stood in his way. The test of patience. As Daniel continued his journey towards mastering his anger, he encountered a series of tests that would push his newfound resolve to its limits. Among these challenges was the test of patience, a trial that would force him to confront his impulsive nature and learn the value of restraint. It began one rainy afternoon as Daniel made his way home from work, the city streets slick with water and teeming with frustrated commuters. Caught in the midst of rush-hour traffic, Daniel felt his temper begin to fray as the minutes stretched into hours, and the honking of horns filled the air like a symphony of discord. With each passing moment, Daniel's frustration grew, until it reached a boiling point and threatened to spill over into a torrent of anger. But then, as if by some divine intervention, he remembered the lessons he had learned in his journey towards self-improvement. Taking a deep breath, Daniel closed his eyes and counted to 10, willing himself to remain calm in the face of adversity. And as he did, he felt a sense of peace wash over him, a clarity of mind that allowed him to see the situation for what it truly was, a temporary inconvenience, nothing more. And so, instead of succumbing to rage, Daniel chose to embrace patience, to surrender to the ebb and flow of life's unpredictable currents. He turned on the radio and hummed along to the melody, finding solace in the music as the world outside raged on. And then, as if by magic, the traffic began to ease, the cars parting like the Red Sea before him. With a grateful smile, Daniel navigated his way home, his heart light and his spirit buoyed by the knowledge that he had passed the test of patience with flying colors. But little did Daniel know, this was just the beginning of a series of trials that would test his newfound resolve to its limits. For in the journey towards self-mastery, there are no shortcuts or easy answers, only the unwavering determination to persevere in the face of adversity. And as Daniel stood on the threshold of a new day, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and grace, secure in the knowledge that he had the power to overcome anything that stood in his way. Echoes of the past. In the days that followed the incident at the cafe, Daniel found himself haunted by memories he had long sought to bury. Each time he closed his eyes, he was transported back to a time when anger had ruled his life with an iron fist, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. He remembered the arguments with his parents, the bitter words exchanged in moments of heated conflict. He remembered the friendships that had crumbled beneath the weight of his temper, the bridges burned in fits of reckless fury, and most of all, he remembered the look of disappointment in the eyes of those he loved, a silent reproach that cut deeper than any insult. But amidst the pain and regret, there was a glimmer of hope, a tiny ember of possibility that flickered within Daniel's heart. For he knew that he was not alone in his struggle, that there were others who had faced the same demons and emerged victorious on the other side. Determined to confront his inner turmoil head-on, Daniel sought solace in the wisdom of books and the guidance of mentors who had walked the path before him. He devoured self-help manuals and attended anger management seminars, desperate to unravel the tangled web of emotions that threatened to consume him. And slowly, ever so slowly, Daniel began to see a change within himself. He learned to recognize the warning signs of anger, the subtle cues that heralded its impending arrival. He learned to breathe deeply and count to 10, to channel his emotions into productive outlets rather than destructive outbursts. But the journey was far from easy, and there were many setbacks along the way. There were moments of weakness when Daniel felt the familiar surge of rage building within him, threatening to overwhelm all reason and logic. There were moments of doubt when he questioned whether he was truly capable of change, whether the darkness within him could ever be vanquished. But with each passing day, Daniel grew stronger, more resilient in the face of adversity. He forged new connections with those around him, rebuilding the bridges he had once burned with his anger. And though the road ahead was long and fraught with peril, Daniel knew that he was no longer alone in his struggle. For he had faced the darkness within himself and emerged stronger on the other side, a beacon of hope for all those who dared to confront their own inner demons. And as he stood on the threshold of a new beginning, Daniel knew that the journey was far from over. But he faced the future with courage and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. User, the temptation of wrath. As Daniel's journey towards mastering his anger continued, he encountered a formidable adversary lurking in the shadows, the temptation of wrath. It was a subtle foe, whispering sweet promises of vindication and retribution in Daniel's ear, tempting him to abandon the path of patience and embrace the familiar embrace of anger. One day, as Daniel went about his daily routine, he found himself confronted with a situation that put his resolve to the test. In the midst of a crowded subway car, an altercation broke out between two passengers, their voices rising in a crescendo of anger and frustration. At first, Daniel felt a familiar surge of rage bubbling within him, a primal urge to intervene and mete out justice to those who dared disturb the peace. But then, he remembered the lessons he had learned on his journey, the importance of remaining calm in the face of provocation. With great effort, Daniel forced himself to take a step back, to observe the situation with a clear and level head. He saw the fear and confusion etched on the faces of his fellow passengers, the tension palpable in the air like a live wire waiting to be touched. And then, in a moment of clarity, Daniel saw the truth. That anger begets only more anger, that violence solves nothing and only serves to perpetuate the cycle of pain and suffering. And so, with a deep breath and a silent prayer, he made a conscious choice to walk away, to let go of his desire for vengeance and seek a peaceful resolution instead. It was a small victory, to be sure, but a victory nonetheless. For in that moment, Daniel proved to himself that he had the strength and courage to resist the temptation of wrath, to choose the path of compassion and understanding over the destructive allure of anger. And as he stepped off the subway car and into the bustling city streets, Daniel felt a sense of peace wash over him, a newfound confidence born of his triumph over adversity. For he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he had the power within him to overcome them, to rise above the darkness and embrace the light of a brighter tomorrow, the healing power of forgiveness. In the wake of his triumph over the temptation of wrath, Daniel found himself faced with a new challenge, the healing power of forgiveness. It was a concept that had always eluded him, a foreign notion that seemed at odds with his ingrained sense of justice and retribution. But as he continued his journey towards self-mastery, Daniel began to see forgiveness in a new light. He realized that holding on to anger and resentment only served to weigh him down, to keep him shackled to the past and prevent him from moving forward. And so, with a newfound sense of purpose, Daniel set out to confront those who had wronged him in the past, to seek reconciliation and closure, where once there had been only bitterness and pain. The first person Daniel sought out was his estranged father, a man with whom he had shared a tumultuous relationship fraught with misunderstandings and missed opportunities. For years, Daniel had harbored resentment towards his father, blaming him for the shortcomings of their relationship and the wounds that had never fully healed. But as they sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, Daniel found himself letting go of his anger, his heart opening to the possibility of forgiveness. He listened as his father spoke of his own regrets and mistakes, of the pain he had caused and the desire to make amends. And in that moment, Daniel realized that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but rather a symbol of strength and courage. It was a choice to let go of the past and embrace the possibility of a brighter future, to release the burdens that had weighed him down for so long and allow himself to heal. With tears in his eyes, Daniel reached out and embraced his father, a gesture of forgiveness and reconciliation that spoke volumes more than words ever could. And as they parted ways, Daniel felt a weight lift from his shoulders, a sense of peace and closure that he had never known before. But his journey towards forgiveness was far from over, for there were still others who he needed to confront, still wounds that needed to be healed. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose, Daniel set out once more into the world, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, with an open heart and a steadfast resolve. The compassion of understanding. As Daniel delved deeper into his journey of self-discovery and emotional mastery, he encountered a profound lesson in the form of the compassion of understanding. It was a lesson that would test his empathy and challenge his preconceptions, forcing him to confront the humanity in others, even in the face of their flaws. One evening, while walking home from work, Daniel witnessed a scene that would forever change his perspective on forgiveness and compassion. A homeless man sat huddled in a doorway, his tattered clothes and weathered face a testament to the hardships he had endured. At first, Daniel felt a twinge of pity for the man, a fleeting acknowledgement of his suffering. But then, as he looked closer, he saw something else. A spark of humanity buried beneath the layers of dirt and despair. A glimmer of hope that refused to be extinguished. Moved by a sudden impulse, Daniel approached the man and struck up a conversation, asking about his life and the circumstances that had led him to this point. And as the man spoke, his words filled with pain and regret, Daniel felt a wave of empathy wash over him, a deep understanding of the struggles that we all face in our journey through life. In that moment, Daniel realized that forgiveness and compassion were not just gifts that we give to others, but gifts that we give to ourselves. By extending a hand of understanding to those who had wronged him, by choosing empathy over anger and resentment, he was not only healing the wounds of the past, but also freeing himself from the shackles of bitterness and regret. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose, Daniel vowed to approach each interaction with an open heart and a compassionate spirit, to seek understanding even in the most challenging of circumstances. For he knew that true emotional mastery lay not in the suppression of anger or the denial of pain, but in the embrace of empathy and the healing power of forgiveness. As he walked home that evening, the weight of the world felt a little lighter on his shoulders, his heart a little fuller with the knowledge that he was capable of making a difference, one act of kindness at a time. And as he gazed up at the stars twinkling in the night sky, Daniel felt a sense of peace wash over him, a quiet assurance that he was exactly where he was meant to be, on a journey towards self-discovery and emotional fulfillment, the path to inner peace. As Daniel traversed the winding path of his journey towards emotional mastery, he found himself drawn ever closer to the elusive goal of inner peace. It was a destination that shimmered like a mirage on the horizon, tantalizingly close yet always just out of reach. But Daniel was undeterred, for he knew that true inner peace could only be found by journeying inward, by delving deep into the recesses of his own mind and soul. And so, with determination in his heart and a sense of purpose guiding his steps, He set out to explore the depths of his being in search of the peace he so desperately sought. Along the way, Daniel encountered many obstacles and challenges, each one a test of his resolve and commitment to his journey. There were moments of doubt when he faltered and lost his way, moments of fear when the darkness threatened to engulf him entirely. But through it all, Daniel pressed on, drawing strength from the lessons he had learned and the wisdom he had gained along the way. He learned to quiet the restless chatter of his mind, to find solace in the stillness that lay beneath the surface of his thoughts. He learned to let go of his attachment to external circumstances, to find peace not in the pursuit of fleeting pleasures or material possessions, but in the simple joys of being alive. He learned to cultivate gratitude for the beauty that surrounded him, for the warmth of the sun on his face, and the gentle caress of the breeze against his skin. And as Daniel journeyed deeper into the heart of himself, he began to glimpse the flickering ember of inner peace that lay dormant within him, waiting to be awakened. He felt it in the moments of quiet contemplation, in the gentle hum of his own breath as it rose and fell like the tide. And though the path to inner peace was long and arduous, Daniel knew that he was on the right track, that with each step he took, he drew ever closer to the fulfillment of his quest. For he knew that true inner peace could only be found by embracing the present moment, by surrendering to the flow of life with an open heart and a willing spirit. And so, with renewed determination and a sense of purpose burning bright within him, Daniel continued on his journey towards inner peace, knowing that the destination was not as important as the journey itself, and that true peace could only be found by walking the path with courage and grace. The spark. In the bustling metropolis of New York City, where the cacophony of car horns and the hum of conversation filled the air like a symphony of chaos, there existed a small, unassuming cafe nestled between towering skyscrapers. This cafe, with its worn wooden tables and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee, was a haven for those seeking solace from the relentless pace of city life. Among the regular patrons of this cafe was a man named Daniel. With his tousled brown hair and perpetually furrowed brow, Daniel was a man accustomed to the trials and tribulations of daily existence. Each morning, he would shuffle into the cafe, order his usual black coffee, and retreat into the corner booth, where he would spend hours lost in thought, his gaze fixed on the bustling world outside. On this particular morning, as Daniel nursed his steaming cup of coffee and watched the ebb and flow of humanity outside the cafe's frosted windows, he found himself consumed by a sense of unease. It was as though a storm brewed within him, a tempest of emotions threatening to engulf him in its fury. As the minutes stretched into hours, Daniel's thoughts grew darker, his mood souring with each passing moment. He found himself dwelling on past grievances, old wounds that had never fully healed. Anger simmered beneath the surface, a fire waiting to be unleashed upon the world. And then, in an instant, it happened. A careless patron bumped into Daniel's table, jolting him from his reverie and sending his coffee splashing onto the pristine white tablecloth. Without thinking, Daniel leaped to his feet, his fists clenched in rage. "Watch where you're going, you idiot!" he bellowed, his voice echoing through the cafe like thunder. Heads turned, eyes widened in surprise, but Daniel paid no heed. In that moment, all that mattered was the surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins, the primal urge to assert his dominance over the world. But as quickly as it had come, the anger began to fade, replaced by a sense of shame and embarrassment. Daniel sank back into his seat, his face flushed with humiliation. Around him, the cafe buzzed with activity once more, but Daniel remained lost in his own thoughts, grappling with the darkness that lurked within him. Little did he know, this moment would be the catalyst for a journey unlike any other. A journey into the heart of human emotion, where anger reigns supreme and redemption lies just beyond the horizon. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the city lights flickered to life, Daniel sat alone in the cafe, contemplating the fragile nature of the human soul and the power of a single fleeting moment to change everything, embracing the present moment. In the labyrinthine journey of Daniel's pursuit of emotional mastery, he encountered a pivotal lesson that illuminated his path like a beacon, the art of embracing the present moment. It was a revelation that shimmered with the promise of liberation, inviting him to shed the burdens of the past and the worries of the future in favor of the serene tranquility of the here and now. As Daniel immersed himself in the practice of mindfulness, he discovered a profound truth: that the present moment was the only moment that truly mattered, the only moment in which life unfolded in all its richness and beauty. And so, with each passing breath, he made a conscious choice to anchor himself in the present, to let go of the incessant chatter of his mind, and simply be. In the stillness of the present moment, Daniel found a refuge from the chaos of the world, a sanctuary where he could find peace amidst the storm. He learned to savor the simple pleasures of life, from the warmth of the morning sun to the laughter of a child at play. But embracing the present moment was not always easy, for Daniel found himself constantly assailed by the distractions and demands of modern life. There were times when his mind wandered, pulled away by the siren song of worries and regrets, leaving him adrift in a sea of anxiety and uncertainty. Yet with each faltering step, Daniel returned to the practice of mindfulness, gently guiding his attention back to the present moment with patience and compassion. He learned to observe his thoughts and emotions with detachment, allowing them to arise and pass away like clouds drifting across the sky. And in doing so, Daniel discovered a profound sense of liberation, a freedom that transcended the confines of time and space. For he realized that in the present moment, there was no past to regret and no future to fear, only the infinite expanse of possibility stretching out before him like a vast and uncharted sea. And so, as Daniel continued on his journey, he vowed to embrace the present moment with open arms, knowing that it held the key to true peace and fulfillment. For he understood that life was not a destination to be reached, but a journey to be savored, one precious moment at a time. The ripple effect of transformation. As Daniel neared the culmination of his journey towards emotional mastery, he found himself reflecting on the profound ripple effect that his transformation had wrought upon the world around him. It was a realization that filled him with awe and humility, as he came to understand the far-reaching impact of his journey on those he encountered along the way. With each step he took towards self-discovery and growth, Daniel inadvertently touched the lives of those around him, leaving behind a trail of positivity and inspiration in his wake. His newfound sense of peace and inner harmony radiated outward like a beacon, illuminating the darkness and guiding others towards the light. Friends and acquaintances remarked upon the change they saw in Daniel, noting the newfound serenity and joy that seemed to emanate from his very being. They were drawn to his warmth and compassion, inspired by his unwavering commitment to his journey of self-improvement. But perhaps most profoundly, Daniel's transformation sparked a ripple effect of change within his own community, as others began to take note of his example and embark on their own journeys of growth and self-discovery. Like pebbles dropped into a still pond, his actions sent forth waves of transformation that touched the hearts and minds of all who crossed his path. And as Daniel stood on the threshold of a new beginning, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey he had undertaken and the lessons he had learned along the way. He knew that true emotional mastery was not a destination to be reached, but a continuous process of growth and evolution, a journey without end. And so, with a heart full of love and a spirit buoyed by the knowledge that he had made a difference in the world, Daniel stepped boldly into the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and grace. For he knew that no matter what trials and tribulations awaited him, he had the power within him to overcome them, to rise above the darkness and embrace the light of a brighter tomorrow.